Hey everybody, welcome to September's Star Power Q&A for Patreon patrons in October. Sorry about the delay. We had a Kickstarter to launch, and it's going very, very well. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. And as always, thank you guys for supporting us here on Patreon and for giving us always interesting and amusing questions for us to answer. Michael here.
I'm Garth. I just had a crazy thought. Since this is September's Patreon
In October,
Q&A, but we're doing it in October. Does that make this one the spooky Q&A, or is that the next one that's going to be the spooky Q&A?
Oh, the next one's a spooky Q&A. We don't have the October thread up yet, and you goddamn right I'm going to do it in costume.
Okay, all right. Just making sure that was the plan.
Oh no, this is September. October, yeah. Hopefully I'll have like spider webs and jack-o'-lanterns hanging and all that stuff.
That's right. You go all out for the Halloween.
You're damn right. I got married near Halloween. You were there.
Or treats.
All right, we got a lot of questions this time.
All right, let's get into it.
One set of questions from Anna. Hello again, Anna, and one from a new questioner, John. So I think we'll start with John. He gave us about 6 questions. So we'll go through those, and we'll see if we can go through Anna's 5 questions. So John's first question is for me, and it's a pretty quick one. Dominic Deegan character cameo in Star Power. Has it? Will it? Can it happen? No. Sorry, John. It's a great question and a fair one. But Dominic Deegan is its own fantasy world, and Star Power very clearly references the planet Earth and Earth history sometimes. So while Dominic,
I was never, sorry to interrupt. That was something I was never entirely clear about with Dominic Deegan. Was that a alternate universe Earth, or was that some other planet somewhere that in like the Earth? Like, was there an Earth somewhere in the Dominic Deegan universe?
No, if we're gonna get, I guess, technical, it may have been in another galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Alternate universe or dimension.
A long time ago in a galaxy far away.
Yeah, exactly. But Dominic Deegan's planet never had a name. I never named it. I never could think of one that I liked. I never could think of one that I liked. So, no, Dominic Deegan and Star Power are 2 very separate entities, and never the twain shall meet. Sorry. All right, so let's move on to the next question. As a creator, what are some of your strongest inspirations and influences? You want to start with this one, Garth?
Strongest influences. I mean, there's a bunch of different kinds of influences, right? I mean, I get there's a lot of artists that I find very influential in my style, and I'm like, oh, I like how they did that, and I try to incorporate various things that I see other artists do because I really like the style, and I blend it into my own aesthetic. But inspiration-wise, weirdly enough, bad stories are my best inspiration, strangely enough. Like things that I'm like, oh, you had a really cool idea here, but you totally failed on it. Like you just, like, the cool part of your story you just totally ignored. Or you did a really shitty job of explaining how a thing worked. It was like, oh, but this could have been so good. Things that could have been amazing but weren't are some of my biggest inspirations, because I want to go back and I want to take their idea, but I want to make it good this time. How about you, Mook?
All right, inspirations and influences. Well, good stories are my inspirations. Like I read a great comic book or read a great novel, and I see some story elements that really wowed me, and I'm like, I want to do that too. I don't want to do the same thing, but I want to get that feeling across. But when I was very young, I was very influenced by cliffhangers, and if anybody who read Dominic Deegan can tell you. And the cliffhangers came in a variety of forms. Like some of them were unintentional. Like before we would go to school, I'd be watching cartoons in the morning, and we'd have to leave for school at like the second to last, like the show's last commercial break. So it would always end on like this big reveal, and then there'd be a commercial, and then I have to go, and I would never know how things resolved, like ever. So, and
make for a really rough Saturday morning. Well,
no, these were
the weekday mornings.
These were cartoons that were on during the week, and I don't know why I kept watching TV. I never got to see how these shows ended, but. And when I was a young boy, my father got me this stack of comic books that it's just his friend was trying to get rid of. So my dad had 2 boys. Oh, I'll just give them to my sons, and they were just random comics, just in the middle of certain storylines or series or anything. And I didn't know what a comic book shop was at 7 or 8. When the comic ended and like our heroes were all knocked out by the bad guy and it looked like he was victorious, I had nowhere to go from there. I was like, okay, I guess how does this end? I need to know what happens next. So all those cliffhangers in my childhood, I guess, kind of informed how to write something to hook people, to hopefully they're going to want to know, they'll have to want to come back to see what happens next. That's one of my biggest influences in writing Star Power and Dominic Deegan, or inspirations. Influences, comic books as a medium. I want to point to one in particular, but I can't really, because some at sometimes are much more influential to me at certain points in my life than others are. So I would say comic books as a medium, as a whole, very, very influential. Okay, moving on to the next question. What is the creative process for writing Star Power? What are some of the things you do to alleviate a roadblock? All right, well, I guess it's another meaty question, but I will certainly throw a few pointers to Garth, because he is very much my partner in writing Star Power, even though he's not directly over my shoulder when I'm actually typing out the scripts.
Which is a good thing, because you spell better than I do.
Well, you can also thank autocorrect and spell checkers and word processors for that. The creative process for writing Star Power is, well, I sit down and I write what I want to happen on each page. Page 1, panel 1, this is what happens, this is what says who. Panel 2, this is what's happening, this is who says who, etc., etc. I try and write as many pages as I can sitting down. I think for the next issue, excuse me, for the next issue, issue 12, I think I sent you 12 pages, Garth?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow I got to sit down and write the next 12. I don't like to write all at once like that. I like to kind of space it out so I can go back and look and like tweak things. But fatherhood, so that's kind of changed my approach. But that's a different story. But when I sit down to write, I try to write as much of an issue as possible, a chapter as possible, which is 24 pages. And then I sit back and I tweak them. I try to rearrange some pages, and then I send them off to Garth. Garth is my editor completely. And because he has to approve and enjoy what he's going to want, what he's going to be drawing, what he's going to be spending so much time on. So the process is sit down and write, send it to Garth. He sends back feedback, and sometimes I have a lot to fix. I think I had to fix 12 pages once, which is probably one of my favorite stories.
You do tell it a lot.
I do, because it's so important. It's such an important story in the creative process, and in a collaborative process. Well, I'll tell the story again, because the creative. Right, because why not? We're sitting right here. It was issue 3 in the search in the Ninth Wormhole. And I'd written the first 12 pages of issue 3, and I was having some trouble with it, but I had to power through and get something over to Garth, and I was hoping he would just find some things that he liked and, ask me to fix the rest. There was absolutely nothing he liked in those 12 pages. And he didn't just... What
I
was that?
always feel a little bad when you say that.
No, but it's.
We're like, oh, I don't want to be harsh, dude, but
But I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did because you didn't just say it sucks, fix it. That would have been something else.
uh,
You, you sent me a list of what you didn't like, how it could be better, and an approach that you would like to see. Now, granted, I was a little disappointed in myself for screwing up 12 pages and the first entire half of a chapter, but it was a change that very, very, very much needed to happen, and he was right in on every one of his points. So when I went back and I changed it, the script flowed a lot better. Well, it was everything. It was what you guys saw in chapter 3, issue 3, and
you did a good second one.
well, thank you. But that was such an important test of our collaboration. Like, how harsh can you be with your partner in a creative process? How will they take that criticism, and how will you guys move forward? It was a very important test for us, and early on too. And I'm glad it happened pretty early on because we were flying through those first 2 issues, and we never really hit any problems, save for some like little minor cosmetic edits. But this was the first time we were like, there's a problem with the script, and a lot of it needs to change on a very fundamental level. And we jumped over that hurdle, I think, really easily.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did. We butted heads on a few things on issue 3. And I'm glad that we did. Like, I'm glad we came to blows over something relatively early on in the process, as opposed to like being where we are now and having, I guess, what couples would say, our first fight. You know, I'm glad we got it out of our systems early because like we're so much more on the same page now. We've always have been, but like now we're even more weirdly on the same page. Yeah. So
basically, the process is writes and then rewrites and rewrites some more. Keep rewriting until you're happy with it.
yeah, and then I hope you're happy with it. And the process now is also just do it on those precious times when your kid is asleep.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. Oh, and the second part of the question was, what are some of the things you do to alleviate a roadblock? And I think you can chime in on this one too, Garth, because I'm pretty sure you get artistic roadblocks.
Oh, yeah.
How do you alleviate one of those?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between a roadblock and a burnout, and they can sometimes feel the same. You know, there's a difference between like you're working on something, you're like, it's not coming together the way I want it to. You know, in that instance, I try to stick with it. I try to push through it, at least for a bit, right? If I give it a couple of quick shots and I can't knock it out, I can't knock it down, and I've drawn and redrawn a thing, you know, a couple of times, and I'm still not happy with it. Then I'll put it down and I'll step away and I'll go elsewhere and I'll do other things. Or I do a lot of reference searches when it's a lot of like, how do feet even work? You know, when it's one of those kind of deals, reference is your best friend. And I think that translates kind of into writing too. Like it's not quite the same, but finding how other people have accomplished a similar scene, and seeing how other people tell a similar element in the story. So there's a certain commonality there. But for burnout, where you're just like, no, I can't do it. I don't even have it in me. I would rather be face down in the carpet with the cat poking me, going, hey, you gonna feed me now? hey. All right. Well, I'm just gonna sit on you now. So you know, there's that. Because eventually you hit that. I've never known an artist who's never hit burnout at some point in time. Eventually you just get to the point where it's like, I can't. Then you have to put it down and walk away. And sometimes that is even worse feeling, because you're like, I can't walk away. I've got deadlines. I can't go dick around on the internet. I can't go for a walk. I've got pages to do, right? But you're actually wasting your time trying to force it, because it's going to be, you're going to feel awful, and it's going to be awful, and nothing is going to work until you take the time to actually go elsewhere. Don't dick around on the internet when you have a blockage. Like, get up from your desk, walk somewhere, go for a walk, play a video game, watch a movie, go hang with some friends, have a beer, whatever floats your boat, right? Play with the cats, play with the kid. I'm sure that works for Mookie quite well these days.
Because I have no choice, yeah.
But do something else. Get away from your workspace, and you will find it rejuvenating. And it might take longer than you want it to. It probably will take longer than you want it to. You might not be able to get back to drawing or writing for the rest of the day, for the next 3 days, for a week. Who knows, right? Don't abandon your work, right? Don't write it off, but do make sure to take time for yourself to step away from it all. And that helps a lot. And remembering to take time off for yourself on a regular basis before you reach burnout helps you never reach burnout, which works way better than being like, oh, I can't do this anymore, I'm out. And then coming back to it constantly, right? You're best making sure that you take a day, at least 1 day a week, to go for a walk, hang out with some friends, watch some TV, play some video games, read a book. You know, something for you, whatever you find rejuvenating. Make sure that you have a day that it's that you take for you, because that's what I find works best for making sure that I don't hit those stumbling blocks and those I just can't anymore. I really should take my own advice more often. Damn.
Well, you described how I deal with roadblocks, so you answered for the both of us, like almost verbatim, like how I deal with writer's block. So awesome. I have nothing to add to what Garth has to say about getting over a roadblock.
All right then. Well, that works.
Cool. The next question from John. Who is your favorite content creator? Oh, brother.
Weird.
Content creator. Whoops.
That's a wide category, isn't it?
No, that's
not just artist or writer, but literally anybody who makes anything.
Content creator. Jesus. All right, well,
and then you can expand it to living or dead. And then you're like, oh man, I don't even know. So let's narrow the field a bit. Let's go first, currently, I guess.
Yeah, so, for today, because anyone, this is like one of those questions, like who's your favorite band? What's your favorite type of music? What's your favorite anything creative? Anybody who's into a lot of stuff is not going to be able to pick just one. It's like picking your favorite kid, which is easy for me. I just got one, so I can pick them. But so I guess disclaimer: this is our favorite today of whatever we can think of, because it's such a broad question. And man, all right, favorite content creator. Sheesh. Man, there's a lot of dead air, huh?
Yeah.
All right, I will. Okay, gun to my head, top of my head, my favorite content creator that I can think of right now is Gail Simone. She's a comic writer. I was introduced to her many years ago when DC did DC Comics did another one of their fresh start event things to get new readers, and it worked for me, I guess. She was writing the all new Atom when when Ryan Choi took over as the Atom, and I was blown away by her writing. It was an old-fashioned adventure, superhero adventure, super science, where like the crazy scientists are the ones trying out their own science and not getting like some grizzled ex-military, I'm trained for this nonsense, to use all the cool shit that they invented. The scientists themselves are using the cool shit that they invented. Ryan Choi was incredibly likable, incredibly likable. All the stories were really fun to read, and I haven't read every single thing she's ever written. I can't keep up that much. But everything of hers that I have read, and very recently, we were talking about this on the Canned Air podcast. Very recently, she did an incredible run on Red Sonja, and it just recently ended, and it ended so well. And there was not a bad issue in her 18-issue run of Red Sonja. I hope they collect the whole thing in a big hardcover fancy thing, because I want to get it. Definitive. I would say it's a definitive take on the character, and it ran the gamut from stories of drama and suspense, some really funny moments in there, and just a great take on what had been, sadly in the past, a very sexualized character. Gail Simone kept her sexy in her own weird barbarian murderer of lawless lands sort of way, you know, but she wasn't sexualized, and that's a very important difference to make, because not everything sexy is like terrible. Sexualization in comics especially is a big problem, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to make anything sexy anymore. So that's another topic, I guess, to talk about. But Gail Simone, one of my favorite comic writers going right now. I just got caught up finishing her run on Red Sonja, and it reminded me why I loved the entire series and why her take on the character was definitive. And it made me remember Ryan Choi from the all-new Atom many years ago.
When they finally do have that complete collection of Gail Simone's Red Sonja, because I think they'd be really foolish to not do that. I'm going to have to pick up that copy. You keep ranting about how good it is. So.
It's really good. I think you'll really like it.
Okay. I think my favorite content creator is... I think I'm going to have to say that my favorite content creator is Phil Folio. With the caveat that it might actually have to go to Phil and Kaya both, because they do work so very intertwined, right? I know Kaya is an artist and creator in her own right, and she does some gorgeous work, but so much of what Phil does now hinges so much on what Kaya does. So it's kind of hard to separate the two out. But I've been reading Phil's work since since I found my dad's copies of Dragon magazine way back because he used to write a little I amend that. My dad did have a couple of copies of Dragon magazine, but he actually had the collections of What's New with Phil and Dixie, which was the comic strip that Folio did in Dragon magazine way back in the 70s, I guess.
Brother.
I know, right?
Long time.
But I think my first introduction to Phil's work was actually his illustrated version of Another Fine Myth, which is a fantasy novel by Robert Asprin.
Oh yeah.
And I really enjoy that series. And Mookie, if you haven't read them, you really ought to.
Alyssa got a bunch of copies of them. Actually, no, Alyssa, I have them on my bookshelf. I haven't gotten to them yet, but I will.
I think you'll enjoy them. At least the first couple. Like, right. It's one of those series that kind of like keeps going, and eventually it kind of loses some of its initial charm and steam. But at least the first handful are really, really just like kind of charming, quirky fantasy adventures. I'm not sure how well they hold up, admittedly, I haven't read them in a long time. Um, but anyway, I digress. Phil did an illustrated version of the first book, and I really enjoyed it, and I just really enjoyed how very evocative Phil's style is. Like, it's very, he's got a lot of emotion and uh, a lot of flair with it. You know, even when like things aren't like the most accurate anatomically or even with stylistically, you know, like oh, there's you know, there's some variation and whatnot in here that, you know, doesn't exactly fit within the style and blah blah blah. But it all still serves a purpose to like convey an emotion and an interaction. I really enjoyed his work, and he's just a funny guy. Like, and that really comes through in like everything that he's put pen to. And I enjoy it when people can tell interesting stories with interesting characters, and still be just have fun with it. Like, that's so hard to find in stories these days. Like, you can find comedies, right? Comedies are not that hard to find, but fun comedies, that's a little harder, right? Where it's like legitimately like, it's not, because so much of comedy is now like, oh, look, let's make fun of this character. Look at how awkward their social situation is. Look at how it's a lot of Schadenfreude kinds of stuff. It's like, oh, thank God that's not me, because that would be super awkward. But we can laugh at, you know, the character's predicament because it's not us. They're a fictional character, and it's safe to laugh at them. Can't hurt their feelings. But funny because everyone's having fun, even when they're mocking each other. It's in that, you know, there's a difference between mocking characters and mocking characters the way you mock your friends, right? There's a difference between that you know, ribbing of people and being mean, and a lot of comedy kind of like messes up that that distinction. I feel, and Phil doesn't. Like, Phil's work is just, it's weird, it's out there, some of it's really out there, but it's just very, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it makes the point that everyone should enjoy themselves for who and what they are. And I don't know, it's just, I don't know, I like it. I like his work. It's been very influential. I have yet to read anything that he's done that I haven't enjoyed.
Awesome.
I rambled there for a bit, sorry.
Oh, whatever. We're both ramblers. All right. Number 5. This is pretty much for you, Garth.
All right.
When drawing and coloring star power, what are some of your techniques to completing the pages quickly, but still making them look good? What are some of the concessions you have to make to meet the deadline? Parentheses, I hear Marvel requires the artist to churn out pages a day, and sometimes that comes at a cost.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of how that works. I wind up doing, on average, I guess, about, I guess it winds up being, I tried for doing about a page and a half a day, roughly speaking, right? No. A page every day and a half. That's where it works at. That's how long it takes me to do a page. I pencil. I try anyway, to pencil 2 pages in a day, ink 2 pages in a day, and color 2 to 3 pages in a day. It mostly works out.
Garth, I've never seen a bad page out of you.
Well, thanks. But that's more because I'm not good at letting things be good enough. I'm very hard on myself when it comes to quality. It's important for me. right? And I probably push things a little further than they really need to be pushed, realistically. But that's a thing for every artist to find their balance between what they find acceptable finished quality and versus the amount of time they put into it. For doing pages quickly, I wish I had a good answer there. There's really no there's no like trick. There's no shortcut to getting good finished color pages. There's a couple things that I'll do every now and again to making things go quickly. I'll mostly it winds up being I'll try to not get distracted by other things. I'll make sure I'll do my best to keep my browsers minimized and stay off the Facebooks and whatnot, because that's a time sink like you would not believe, or you might believe it. Who knows?
I think everybody believes it.
Yeah, everybody knows it, but we don't do anything about it. Right? But technique-wise, I'll if I can, I'll try to use more large gradients, and to because you can make things look pretty good by having with even just a single like shadow layer. That's not a layer. That's not how I work. But you can take basically a cell shade style, right, where you have a very hard definition between light and shadow, and you can make it look really good by, instead of just filling in the shadow with or the highlight, depending on which way you're going. If you work from dark to light, or light to dark, you can do it either way, right? I work dark to light, so I'll be adding highlights to base colors, right? And instead of filling it in with solid, solid colors, I can get a little, make it look a little fancier, without putting in a lot more effort by taking a big soft airbrush and brushing in that highlight through the selection, rather than just filling it in flat. You can also occasionally I've taken to using some color gradients on various characters, to bring out depth in the field of the page, without actually having to go in and add a lot of highlights and a lot of details. And it's a relatively simple technique, and it does add a lot of pop, or it can add a lot of pop. I might have to do an actual tutorial or something, because it's really difficult to explain this without actually having visuals.
You do tutorials at conventions, though, right?
I do, but maybe I need to do an online tutorial. Maybe that'll be a thing.
It could be a Patreon thing.
Yeah, maybe that. Who knows? Well, anyway, we'll kick it around a little bit and see if I can find a decent way of recording a tutorial, or maybe a series of tutorials, depending, that aren't total rambling messes, so they're actually kind of useful. Because but yeah, but really there's not a simple quick solution to making good colors go quickly. It takes time. The more you do it, obviously the better you get, and the faster you can go, because you're used to it. You're like, oh, well, all right, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing now. Yeah, I don't have to think about all the steps and all the colors and all the lighting elements. You can basically wing it on instinct, because you've done it enough, right? You're familiar enough with how to light things and how to play with color, that you can just kind of be like, oh yeah, this will work. That's fine. That's fine. I don't have to really think about it too hard. Concession-wise to meeting deadlines, Sleep. I concede a lot of sleep. But more than sleep, social life. Those are the two biggest concessions to meeting deadlines. Is you don't go places, you don't do anything but work. That's maybe not the healthiest thing in the world. I don't necessarily recommend that, but it does get them done on time.
It makes for a successful Kickstarter too.
That's true.
Makes you feel any better, Garth? I don't go anywhere either. I don't think I have in quite some time. Even when I was doing comedy.
You got a kid in the early stages. That's almost expected.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to John's final question. This is going to be a quick one for me anyway. Have you seen Rick and Morty? Parentheses. If not, go watch it. Favorite episode? I can answer. I have never watched Rick and Morty.
I haven't either. So apparently we need to go watch Rick and Morty.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for your questions. They were really fun to answer. Let's move on to Anna. She gave us about 5 questions, and she gave us silly questions. All right. First silly question. What's your favorite dinosaur?
Okay. My favorite dinosaur growing up was... Oh, crud. I've now forgotten the name of it. It's the armored one with the club tail.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, right? That one.
Yeah, that one.
It's not like, you know, one of those super common ones made famous by Jurassic Park, but like, you know, although most of those are fake, but it's not an unheard of one. It's not like one of the weird ones that no one ever talks about.
It's a pretty common dinosaur growing up for our generation.
I want to say it started with an A.
Some sort of armor reference. Not like armadillo.
No. Dang it, I'm going to look this up. It's going to bother me until I figure it out.
All right, well, let me know, because I'm going to do my favorite dinosaur. My favorite dinosaurs, and it took me a while to get there, and it's for a funny reason. Any of the ocean dinosaurs, like the Plesiosaurus or the Ichthyosaurus, or like that super dinosaur they found a few years ago that was like eating all the giant other dinosaurs in the ocean. Growing up as a kid, I liked all the classics: T-Rex, Triceratops, the one Garth and I can't remember.
It's Ankylosaurus, by the way.
Ankylosaurus?
Ankylosaurus.
That's right.
Apparently, there was a bunch of them, depending on like their plate, their like plate and spines, and a variety of things. Like most dinosaurs, there's a variety of them. But that's the well-known one anyway.
That's right. But yeah. So growing up, I liked the classics: pterodactyls, T-Rexes. Back then, Brontosaurus.
Poor Brontosaurus.
Had the wrong head. But then there was this Saturday morning TV show called Dinosaurs.
Oh my God!
That's such a great theme song too. Very, very 80s, very hair metal sort of. Well, very 80s cartoon. Anyway, so. In Dinosaurs, they were these dinosaur, like anthropomorphic dinosaur aliens that came down and befriended a bunch of teenagers, blah, blah, blah. But they all were different dinosaurs. Like, obviously, the T-Rex was the leader of the bad guy dinosaurs. The leader of the good guy dinosaurs was an Allosaurus. And they just divvied them up. So, but the coolest dinosaurs to me in that show were the sea dinosaurs, the Plesiosaurus and the Ichthyosaurus. Their names, I think, were Plesio and Icky.
Because it was the 80s.
And they needed to sell toys, yeah. But I got interested in the ocean dinosaurs. So, like that entire category: Plesiosaurus, Ichthyosaurus, and again that super monster dinosaur they found a few years ago. I can't remember its name. And a really metal name like Super Predator-osaurus. Eat your face, Adon. I don't fucking remember.
Eat your face, Adon.
So the ocean dinosaurs are my favorites now that I'm an adult, quote unquote. All right. Next question from Anna. If you could travel the world on any mode of transportation, what would it be? Including sci-fi, fantasy, etc. Travel the world on any mode of transportation, real or fictional. What do you think, dude?
Okay, so it's my gut check answer to this is Zeppelin, because why the fuck not? And I'm not talking like, you know, actual Zeppelins like we made, but like giant like cruise ship kind of Zeppelins with, you know, like, you know, not tickets please get kicked out kind of Zeppelins, but like
All right. Geez, that's a good one. Again, broad freaking question. Any mode of transportation, including fantasy or sci-fi, around the world. Oh. Okay, gut, just right now, because I can't think of anything else. A Y-wing from the old Star Wars.
Okay.
They were my favorite. They were my favorite Rebel Starfighters. Everyone liked the X-wings, but for some reason, I got attached to those old workhorses, the Y-wings. So if I could fly a Y-wing around the world, I'd probably fly a Y-wing. It looks pretty cool.
You could do it.
I think so.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right. This is probably this question I don't exactly get. I might be showing my age or my lack of pop culture knowledge. The question is, have you met Ted?
I believe that Anna is referencing How I Met Your Mother here.
I never watched that show.
You never watched that show? Oh, that's a shame. I really liked it.
My friends here fucking love that show. They called it Himium, like they spelled out.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love my friends, but God, that drove me crazy.
I mean, I kind of understand why people do that. It's kind of a long name, but still, like lazy typing, guys.
Yeah. They would say this. They wouldn't just type out how like HIMYM. They would say that in conversations.
Oh, you see, now that's just lazy.
Like, oh, have you guys seen the latest episode of Himium?
Nonsense. But anyway, but I'm not really sure how to answer the question exactly. But let's be fair, Anna. You've met me. I basically am Ted.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever watch the show.
I mean, it's fun. All right, so to explain this to you and to, I guess, anyone who hasn't seen the show, the main character Ted Mosby is this architect who's decided that he wants to get married, and he has having the worst trouble finding the woman to actually marry. He wants to be married, just can't find the right girl, right? And his best friend Barney sets him up with in the most obvious ways, where Barney will go find pretty girl at a bar and be like, "Have you met Ted?" And then leave Ted with the pretty girl and just like leave. And it was very, I don't know, it was a funny, comical kind of gag running joke throughout the show. And to my knowledge, no one actually does that. Or if they have, I can't even imagine it working, but maybe it does. Who knows?
We gotta find a single friend of ours and just do that to them. All right, next question. Oh, this is a good one. What is the dumbest thing you've ever done in public? Dumbest thing you've ever done in public? Oof.
That I want to admit to?
Yeah, there's that too. I've done a lot of dumb shit, but it's usually in private or private company where I can get yelled at without anybody to save me or defend me. Dumbest thing I've ever done in public.
I've tried dancing.
That's not dumb.
Have you seen me dance?
Yeah, you were at my wedding, my Halloween wedding. The dance floor did not stop. The record needle didn't go like.
Well, that's to be fair. I think your DJ was doing everything digital, so.
You find a bad enough dancer, that feeling is there. That actually happened to me once. It wasn't because I was dancing. It's an unrelated story, but I walked into a room where the music was going digitally, but the mood of the room, because it didn't expect me to walk in, was.
Damn.
It was. All right. Well, make a very long story short. I was living with all my roommates were lesbians, my first apartment, and they were throwing a party, and I was working nights, and they didn't tell any of their guests that a man was coming home or that a man lived there.
Oh.
So they were all told, like, oh, this is a ladies only party, and then I walk in disheveled and just grumpy from waiting tables all night and not getting enough tips, and all of a sudden there's just women everywhere, and then it hits me that they're all lesbians. To do with it.
That does sound like a perfect sitcom awkward moment, doesn't it? Yeah. Wow.
But that's not a dumb thing that I've done. Like that happened to me.
Right.
I mean, I was just coming home from work and I was surrounded by lesbians. Not as alluring as it sounds, as the adult film industry would have you believe. Dumbest thing I've ever done in public. Jeez. I think I'm having trouble remembering because I try to forget the dumb shit that I've done and like try to just move on. Like
I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, I try to remember some of the cool. I try to remember so much stuff because I'd like to tell stories about shit that's happened to me. But I don't. I guess maybe that's the difference. I remember the stories of shit that's happened to me, as opposed to the dumb shit I've done.
I can see that being a fair distinction.
I mean, I know I've done dumb shit.
Right.
But, man.
I mean, we all have.
Well, yeah, but the dumbest thing I've ever done in public. I remember I was at PortCon, Maine once, this convention up in Portland, Maine, and they have this game show on their Friday nights that they're very famous for, at least up there in Maine. And they try to get a bunch. They have these bunch of teams, like this trivia thing, and they. Okay, no, all right. This applies. So one of the things was all the team members had to pick a team member, and the name of the event was the drag race. So I was the person picked on my team. So we all got put into dresses, just all of us on stage. And the contest was you have to run across the street out of the convention and across the street into like the Tim Hortons across the street in drag and get a certain food item and then come back with it. But it was a trick because the Tim Hortons is closed at that hour. So they were just going to send a bunch of guests and attendees just running across a major street in drag. I was too old 7 to 8 years ago when I was in my late 20s. I bowed out. I mean, I was like, sorry, team, not doing it. And the crowd was like, oh, come on. I'm like, fuck you. No. So to please the angry masses, as it were, I think I did a striptease in drag.
Maybe this is where it all began with the crowd wanting you to take your shirt off everywhere you go.
Except I was in a low-cut dress. Like the dress started from here and went down. But yeah, so I had that was the potential for me to do the dumbest thing in public. But I guess dancing in a prom dress in Port Con, Maine, was fun. It was kind of dumb. Not humiliating, but stupid.
I mean, I suppose that actually is kind of an interesting question, right? Because dumb things done in public can sometimes be really fun things, even if they are actually dumb things.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just not interesting enough that I've ever gotten into like story-worthy situations. Like, oh, dude, we were all stoned out of our minds and then decided to go on a hike. I can't even think this shit up because I don't do that stuff. When I drink, I do it at home, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Just in case. Oh, no. Wait.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I got it. Dumbest thing I've ever done in public was get mind-numbingly blackout drunk on my 30th birthday with my parents. I got so blasted, so blackout drunk, that I had to be dragged home 3 or 4 city blocks through Boston, moaning and groaning about how sick I felt, vomiting 2 or 3 times. I'm sorry. Yeah, vomiting 2 or 3 times. And waking up on the day after my 30th birthday with my hair in a ponytail like this. I did not go to sleep with my hair in a ponytail that I know of. On my side, on a couch, my pants are off, and there's a bucket next to my head. And I woke up, and it all just clicked. Like, oh, God damn it. And I spent the rest of the day with a blazing headache, just debilitating. I've not been that drunk since my 30th birthday, and that's been years ago. So
it's probably wise.
So the dumbest thing I've ever done in public is get that drunk. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for feeding me vodka nonstop on my 30th birthday, and me being stupid enough to be like, I can take it. I'm a man. Woo! Dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Oh, my 30th birthday. Oh, I can't. Ugh. 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 Shall we move on to the next question?
Yeah.
So Anna's next question. Oh, it's very simple. I actually want to do an experiment with this. The question is very simply pancakes or waffles. Now, Garth, before you answer, I remember somebody told us, I think it was at Acon, like they looked at the two of us at our table and they said, like, you guys are basically like the same person now. So what I want to do is I want us to answer at the same time. And I want to see if we have the same answer.
Okay. Hold on. Give me a moment here. Make sure that I have my answer right.
I know. Okay, I got mine.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to count down from 3. We'll do 3, 2, 1, and then answer.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Waffles. Fuck, we are the same person.
God damn. All right, so waffles. This is the superior breakfast food.
Hey, man, make your own waffles. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I think that's why I like waffles better. Is that, and that was my mom. Pancakes. Pancakes are easier to flub, right? And if you have soggy, not quite big, fried, baked. I'm not sure what the proper term is for pancakes. I guess you're technically frying them, but that feels weird. But whatever, baking terms.
Yeah.
Cooking terms, whatever.
Pancake. That's it.
Anyway, pancakes you can screw up pretty thoroughly without trying too hard. Waffles, much harder to screw up, I think.
See, I think the opposite.
Really?
Pancakes are super easy. You make the mixture, pour it into the pan. That's it. Now, if you're having frozen waffles, that's different. Toaster, ding, spread, the end. But I like to make my own waffles. We got a waffle maker for one of our wedding presents, and I used that thing. I used that thing all the time. I haven't had waffles in a while, but I used that thing constantly. Loved it, and I fucked up waffles so freaking often with that thing. Getting the mixture wrong, because with a waffle iron, like with a pancake, you see the process. Like you can watch the pancake being cooked. With a waffle iron, you just shut it and you hope.
Yeah.
Sometimes you open up the waffle iron, it comes off in 2 pieces, and then you've got a murdered waffle. Like it looked like it went down in like some samurai movie. Like cut a long way. So I think waffles are much easier to screw up. Pancakes, the flipping is a challenge, but like that's a challenge you see coming. It's not like the waffle is done and then you know if you've ruined breakfast or not. But I think that'll do it for September's Q&A in October.
Okay.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, John, for your questions. They were lots of fun to answer. Thank you to everybody who keeps supporting us on Patreon. We will be posting October's question thread probably tomorrow, and hope to get more questions from you guys. And we have a lot of fun answering them. So, yeah.
Until next time.